It's quite common for me to browse a church's website and feel like I'm wading through pages of disorganized material, like tracking down what I need is a chore. And the thing is, it shouldn't feel difficult or take that much effort to explore a website, not if it's well organized at least. So think of me as the Marie Kondo for church websites, and together we're going to declutter and organize your church's website using what I call the kitchen principle and 5 easy checklist items. I've even made a downloadable checklist for you in PDF form that you can freely download. And by the end of this video, your website is going to feel so refreshed and rejuvenated. Just like the feeling when your home gets reorganized, you do a deep clean. It feels like you're in a brand new home. But all it took was some thoughtful tidying up. That's exactly what we're going to do, but for your church's website. So let's dive in. So first up, I want to introduce you to what I call the kitchen principle. So think about a tidy kitchen. The food is in the pantry, utensils are in drawers, pots and pans in cupboards. Everything has its place. I've really yet to see a tidy kitchen that stores their spatula on the countertop. No, instead, we organize our kitchen. Some things are reserved for the counter, publicly visible out in the open. Other things are in easy to access drawers an arm's reach away. Maybe the stuff that doesn't get used too often is up high, and we all make different choices in our homes, but nonetheless, there's a tiered system that exists, either formal or informal, because it would be maniacal to keep every utensil, appliance, cutting board, pot, pan, and dry food item on the countertops, right? Sure, it would be the most accessible that way, but it would be a mess. Well, that's the state most of our church websites are in right now. So let's take the kitchen principle and apply it to our church's sites. And we've got 3 objectives here: to eliminate clutter, to remove unnecessary pages, and to clear hurdles so visitors to our website can find what they need and take action. And I've got 5 checklist items for you. I'm going to show you exactly how to do these things, and this can be done at no cost. It does not take too long, and you don't have to change anything else about your existing website. Ready to roll? Let's start with checklist item number 1. If you take anything away from this video, here's a very important principle of web design. Information must always be accessible, but it mustn't always be visible. All right? There are going to be parts of your church website that are very text heavy, for example. And instead of slapping a 1,000-word block of text in the middle of a page, what we can do instead is nest that information in what we call an info card. And this way, the text is accessible to those who need it, but it's not taking up real estate on the page all the time. And think about your kitchen utensils. You need a whisk. Sure, but for many of us, it's not needed every day. So instead of keeping it on the counter, let's tuck it away in an easy-to-access drawer. Same principle here. So for our example, let's apply this idea to the beliefs section of a church's website. And for many churches, your beliefs are going to be one of the longest sections on your entire site. And you've got 2 options, right? You can slap all 3,000 words, let's say, right in the middle of the page, or you can condense your beliefs for the sake of aesthetics. Well, neither of those are ideal, so let's go with secret option number 3 that very few churches take advantage of: info cards. And here's how I'm going to do that. Instead of having my entire set of beliefs always visible on the page, I'm going to make them always accessible and neatly tuck them inside an info card. Now, when someone clicks beliefs to learn more, the info card opens up and the full uncondensed beliefs are right there. In this example, I've got a card that triggers open the beliefs, but you could do this with a button. You could do it with a link in your footer or navigation menu. You could do it with all 4 at once. It's your call. As for the tech we're using, info cards are a feature of the launcher by Nucleus. Nucleus is my church tech platform, and we built the launcher as a free forever tool for every church. It works on every website, and there are no strings attached. We give this thing away to anyone that wants it, and you'll be seeing the launcher throughout this video, so think of it as your all-in-one website organization tool. Of course, you don't need to use the launcher to implement these principles, but there's nothing stopping you either. We designed this tool specifically for churches, and there's nothing else like it. You can get it for free at nucleus.church/free. We've got install guides for every different web platform, and we're always here to help as well. Creating an info card is simple. From your Nucleus dashboard, you'll click Next Steps, and then in the nav menu, Info Cards, add new, give your card a name, an optional image, headline, sub-headline if you choose, and then all of the copy. And finally, a call to action at the end. Sometimes it'll make sense here to point people to a sign-up form. Here, I'm just going to direct them back to the page they were previously on. I'll save my changes, and now from the info cards page, I can click on Copy Sharing Link, and now that's the link I'll use to trigger open this info card. And just like that, my About Us page, where my beliefs previously lived in a massive text block that really bogged down the flow of the page, they're now nested in an info card. The beliefs are just as accessible as always, which is important, but they're not permanently visible. The whisk is now in an easy-to-access drawer, not just sitting on the countertop at all times. Now let's move to our next organizational maneuver. Now, just like long blocks of text, forms are another website element that can take up significant real estate on pages. So again, I prefer to keep them nested in a widget. Again, we're using the launcher by Nucleus for that. If you think about a form embedded on a website, especially if the form has more than a couple of steps, it's going to get pretty long, right? And that again starts to take up more space than we'd likely want on our pages. I want tidy countertops that are not covered in things that don't need to be there. And with that said, we're not trying to be organized just for the sake of it, right? We want our websites to be more effective, and these tactics can help us get there. And the way to do this with Nucleus is I'm going to create a Nucleus flow. Now, Flows is a paid product by Nucleus. It's our modern form builder for churches. The launcher is free, but I just wanted to be clear. If you connect it to Flows and put those two products together, Flows does have a cost. You can free trial it, of course, and see if it's a good fit. So I've got a flow that I've made here, and if I go to share, I can copy the link, and much like the info cards in our last example, I can use that link anywhere I want. So I can connect it to a button, nav menu, footer, link in bio, email blast, all of the above. And when that link gets clicked, the sign-up flow opens up beautifully on top of the page, and it's ready to go. And if you need a little help here deciding what goes where, what should be visible versus what should be accessible, there are three categories of web content to consider. I call them the 3 I's. There's inspiration, information, and invitation. And your website is responsible for all of them. It's a tall task. So good organization is key to making everything flow nicely. As to what goes where, web content that invokes inspiration is what should be publicly visible more than the other 2 I's. And this is because inspirational elements like photos and videos and big headlines that encapsulate your church's vision and identity, that's relevant for everyone that visits your site. On the information and invitation side, though, well, that's where you might want to start using some of these organizational tools. Because yes, that information is needed, like your beliefs, but not always, and not for everyone. So let's make it accessible, but not necessarily visible. There's also some information that's needed by everyone. Sure, maybe you make the case that that's true of your beliefs, but it's something people might want to peruse once and then not again. So it's not frequently needed. So if it's permanently visible, taking up real estate on your About Us page, that might not make the most sense. So be mindful of those 3 I's: inspiration, information, and invitation, and ask yourself, is this website element relevant to everyone, all or most of the time? If it's not, then it might qualify for any one of these organizational strategies. To this point, we've talked about organizing and shortening individual pages and making an individual page easier to explore and take in. Let's now talk about an organizational principle and technique that eliminates unnecessary pages altogether. And this kind of bloat is common for church websites. You know, we don't have viable options for certain events or ministries or church happenings, and so we just make a page for them, which is a lot of work, and it probably didn't need to be a page. And now over time, we might have dozens of pages, which makes navigation more tricky, and we've got pages for seasonal events that aren't even relevant anymore. You see how quickly things can get out of hand. Instead, let's posit the idea that not everything needs a page to begin with. Instead, let's give it a banner. So in this example, let's create a banner for a church picnic that we'll pin to the top of our homepage. I'll navigate back to Next Steps and click on Banners this time, add new, fill in the necessary information, and then connect this banner to an info card. So we've already talked about info cards in checklist item number 1. We're going to rely on those again here, except instead of having the button in our info card go to a URL, we're going to connect it to a flow. So we're going to go from a banner to an info card to a sign-up flow. So the banner is publicly visible, pinned at the top of the page. That gets clicked. It opens up an info card with a beautiful photo of last year's picnic and all of the necessary event details. Then comes the sign-up flow, where you can tell us what you're bringing and let us know that you're coming. And I'll set that banner to expire the day of the picnic. So now I've facilitated an entire event, from promotion to sharing information to handling signups without compromise, but I've also avoided creating an entire page for an event that won't need that page starting next month. I've even set it all to expire automatically, so I don't have to remind myself to go back and do it, risking the chance that I forget, leaving it up, and now we're promoting an event that has already happened. You don't keep the blender in the living room. It's in the kitchen for a reason. So as much as it's possible, we want to avoid redirecting folks to third-party pages and websites to take action and find what they need. Giving pages are notorious for this. You want to give to your church, you get taken to a third-party website hosted by another platform, maybe the branding's off, you've been sent to a new tab. And look, this stuff isn't the end of the world, right? But it's also not the best experience. So in our example here, we have a church's giving form contained in the launcher by Nucleus. We're not sending a user to open a new tab. We're not directing them to another website altogether. We're keeping them on our church's site, which is what we want. We're delivering a seamless experience with identical branding, and they never have to leave the page they're on. And this is just one example of this principle in practice, but again, as much as possible, avoid redirects to third-party pages. Keep people on your church's website. And now our final organizational technique. A well-organized kitchen is not just tidy. The most important stuff is always an arm's reach away. And sure, you might keep the expensive glassware high in the cupboard and reserved for special occasions, but the stuff that you need the most, it's always easy to grab. Same should go for your church's website. And this is why the launcher lives on every single page of your site. It's this little next steps widget here. You can change this icon if you like. You can change the colors to match your church. And what this does is it makes high priority next steps available on every page. And this means less searching and more next steps for your church and website visitors. Now, like I said, these checklist items can be filled with any number of tools, but there's only one made specifically for churches, and we decided to make it free forever as our way of giving back, because no church website should be cluttered and disorganized. And that's also why the launcher works on any church website. You won't ever need a Nucleus subscription. You don't need to enter a credit card, just an email and a password to create your account. You can get it at nucleus.church/free, and make sure to download the church organizational checklist PDF as well, where all of these principles are contained in a tidy, downloadable format. A link for that is in the description below. Of course, thanks as always for your time, attention, and trust. If you found something of value in this video and you're still watching at this point, thank you. It means the world. Could you give this video a thumbs up? It really does help me. Subscribe for the next one, and I'll see you then.